I think it is finally time to talk about my Fujifilm X-T30II camera and why I decided to say goodbye to it. I've had this camera for a year and a half and it's been great. I used it in my free time, took it on my travels, shot street photography with it and just had a great time. I like the design of this camera and I'm happy I chose this model instead of X-E4. Although the X-E4 probably kept its value better because it got discontinued and you can buy it new. But over time I started want a bit more from my camera, just like what happened with my Fujifilm X100F before. With the X100F I felt limited by having just one focal length and decided to go for an interchangeable Fujifilm camera to have the option to swap lenses. Of course, X100 users might say there are lens converters, but I didn't want to invest in them. They are made for just one camera model, and living in a small city I thought it would be harder to sell them compared to Fujifilm lenses that can be used with different camera bodies. So I sold my X100F, added some money and got the X-T30II with the X-T15 45mm lens. I've made videos on both the camera and the lens and I'll link them in the description below. Overall the experience was great. I liked using the X-T15 45mm lens because of the optical image stabilization, which helped film some handheld videos. On my travels I enjoy not only taking photos but also capturing some ambient videos. The only problem was that I could do this with only one lens and it wasn't very bright. So with the X-T50 on the horizon I felt it would be a good time to sell my X-T30II, add some money and upgrade to the X-T50, which should finally include in-body image stabilization. Unfortunately, not everything went as expected. The X-T50 came out with IBIS built-in, yes, a new design which I could also take it, a new 40 megapixel sensor, which I don't really need. The biggest downside turned out to be the price. The cheapest X-T50 option available in my country right now is 1,500 euros, which is insane. The X-T30II starts at 800 euros, which is almost half the price. This raised a big concern for me because selling my used X-T30II would mean I'd have to add more than double the amount of money to afford the X-T50. I didn't expect that since I was assuming the price would be around the same as the X-T30II, maybe a few hundred euros more. So I had few options. One, to still go for the X-T50 and overspend on a camera for my hobby of street photography, or I could just keep shooting with the X-T30II. Probably the smartest choice would be to stick with my X-T30II because it still fits all my needs except for IBIS. Overspending on the X-T50 isn't a good idea at all. If I did, it would make more sense to consider the X-T4 or X-T5, which cost about the same but at least provide weather sealing and some other benefits. But I'm the kind of person who, when comes up with an idea, thinks about it for a few weeks to see if he really wanted it, or if it was just an impulsive thought that fades away. But the idea of upgrading my Fuji X-T30II didn't fade away. It stuck with me, not only because I needed IBIS, but also because I like the idea of trying something new and having a new experience with another camera. So I started looking at other Fuji cameras to see what option would suit my needs. The first and obvious choice for me was the X-T4. It has IBIS, weather sealing and doesn't have a 40 megapixel sensor, which isn't a problem for me, but it was bigger. I got used to my X-T30II's size and weight, and for me the X-T4 was the last resort, so I kept looking. Then I found out there are two camera models, the XS10 and XS20, with the second being released last year. This makes the XS20 more up-to-date, not only compared to my X-T30II but also to the X-T4. So I decided to try and wait until a used XS10 or XS20 became available. Of course, I hoped the XS20 would come up first, since it's a newer model with better IBIS than the XS10. And after some time I found a listing for an XS20 camera with a kit X of 1855 lens and a fast SD card for 1,100 euros. It was a bit more than I expected, but it included a fast SD card and a lens that I could sell to get some money back, which would fit my budget for the upgrade. But still, it is a great deal because the guy that sold it to me bought it last year for almost 1,700 euros and barely used it. So I got a camera kit in mint condition for a great price. And yeah, here we are. This is my new Fujifilm camera that will replace my X-T30 Mark II. Although I have two main concerns. First is the grip, which I believe will be comfortable to hold, but it looks a bit more modern than other Fujifilm cameras. Although it still has straight lines, unlike the X-T50, which became more curved and modern looking. The second thing I'm concerned about is the rotatable screen. Over the years I've got used to flip-up screens on my Fuji and Sony cameras. It gives the feeling of shooting like with an old medium format cameras, where you can look at the screen top down. With a rotatable screen, to shoot from the waist you need to pull the screen out and then tilt it, which doesn't feel as cohesive. However, shooting in vertical format with a rotating screen would be more comfortable. I'll have to see if I can get used to these things and any others I might find along the way. Now let me know what you think of my decision to upgrade my Fujifilm X-T30 Mark II camera to the XS20. While searching for a new camera, I found the Fujifilm camera lineup a bit confusing. I think it might be helpful to create a video explaining which Fujifilm camera is good for different situations. Let me know if you would be interested in that. Overall, I'm excited to test this new camera and soon take it with me on my trip to London. If you have any questions about the Fujifilm XS20, let me know in the comments and I'll try to address them in a future review video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and hit the subscribe button so I could see you in the next one. For now, have a nice day and keep shooting. With Fuji or with Sony or with Canon or Nikon, it doesn't matter as long as you keep shooting. Bye!